If you're wondering how far the brainworms have penetrated the minds of some Republicans, look no further than what happened in Michigan this week, where an eagle-eyed state representative named Matt Maddock thinks he spotted the latest frontier in the right-wing horror fantasy of a migrant invasion of the United States. Maddock posted these pictures of 3 buses lined up near an airplane at the Detroit Metro Airport Wednesday night, writing frantically, "Happening right now. 3 buses just loaded up with illegal invaders at Detroit Metro. Anyone have any idea where they're headed with their police escort?" Yes, Matt Maddock was sounding the alarm because when he sees a bus or 3 at an airport, it must be an invasion. His post was, of course, reposted by the equally sharp chairman of the Michigan Republican Party. But, and who could see this coming, the buses were not filled with invaders. They were filled with bulldogs, the Gonzaga Bulldogs, to be precise. Yes, as you can see in the tweets from the Gonzaga men's basketball team, that was them triumphantly arriving in Detroit to play in the NCAA Sweet 16 matchup at Little Caesars Arena tonight. There's a completely embarrassing, humiliating level of paranoia on display here. And you might think a normal person might declare an oopsie and take down the post, like the chair of the party eventually did. Or, heaven forbid, one could apologize. But Matt Maddock, an actual elected person in the state of Michigan, has not only left the post up, it is still there right now. But to anyone who's pointed out his racist and offensive error, Maddock explains himself with variations of sure commie and okay commie. I'm joined now by one of Maddock's Democratic colleagues in the Michigan legislature, State Senator Mallory McMorrow. Senator, it was your pointing this out that brought me to this story. How quickly did people sniff out the actual story here?
Almost immediately. I mean, it would be hilarious if this weren't an actual elected official, but this isn't the first time he's done this. You have people like Maddock now frantically driving around the state looking for any bus as a sign of a threat. And we saw this happen in Florida. A woman posted a video following, a line of yellow school buses asking questions about where these people were going. And it was runners going to a 10K. I mean, it's just like, how do you live in this paranoid universe where every single bus is a threat instead of a basketball team?
It's interesting. I've watched. I was looking at some data the other day on like the #1 issue for Republican voters, and it's also been independent voters. And one thing that's really interesting is the economy was the #1 issue when people were frustrated with it. But interestingly enough, it has come down precipitously for Republicans and even for independents as the #1 issue, being replaced by immigration. And it really does feel like a bait and switch. And I'm curious from your position in Michigan, key battleground state, and also a place that was hit very hard in the Great Recession, had a very contentious experience with COVID. Like, if you feel like there's an active desire on the part of your Republican colleagues to just swap out what the sort of source and focus of their anger is.
I mean, I think part of that is right. And I think also just look no further than Donald Trump to see where this issue is. I mean, there was a bipartisan immigration reform bill in front of Congress that had wide agreement until Trump called GOP members of Congress and said, don't vote it through because we can't give Biden a win. So, I mean, frankly, it's just really disgusting that they would rather have this be a talking point and a political weapon than to actually solve the issue. And then what happens is you're afraid of everything. So, what's going to happen when there is a group of 4th graders coming to our state capitol on a field trip and we have some nut job run them off the road because they believe all of these lies because the Republicans don't want to be bothered with actual solutions.
Yeah, I should note that the polling for Michigan shows immigration and the economy tied, along with preserving democracy as 3 of the top issues. Also, Maddock's got sort of a history with Trump as one of the kind of key, like, Trump whisperers or liaisons in the state. This reporting from the Huffington Post in 2022 that Republicans from your state say there's only one way to get the former president's attention. That's to know and support Michigan GOP co-chair Maddock, her state representative husband, Matt Maddock, and their adult children who are involved in varying degrees of the couple's political endeavors. These are not, to the point, fringe characters in the Michigan Republican GOP. This isn't just like grabbing some rando. This is someone with real power in that state's party.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Meshawn Maddock is currently under investigation as one of the false electors here in Michigan, and she was previously the co-chair of the state party. So this is somebody who's heavily involved, somebody who Donald Trump has their personal phone numbers and calls them regularly to interfere in our elections and to kind of seed these chaotic issues. This isn't the fringe. This is the GOP right now. And I think to your point about issues that matter to Michiganders, it's the economy, immigration, and democracy, because Michigan is a state where I think people see what's happening and want to know that this election isn't going to be our last election, and we're going to have a chance to vote after this year.
I was struck by the fact that the new chair of the GOP, Chair Hoekstra, who won this sort of Civil War battle against like the kind of extremely nutty, if I can say that, MAGA wing, but it was just, there was something about him being the like sane, reasonable one who won that Civil War and then retweeting this utterly paranoid tweet said a lot to me about what kind of hands the state GOP is in.
Yeah, that's right. You know, it's not only that he retweeted it, but who he retweeted it from. You know, Meshawn Maddock walked so Christina Karamo, the previous chair of the Michigan GOP, could run. And Karamo was the one who accused Beyonce and just about everything else of being satanic. So, you know, Hoekstra won on this idea of returning the party to sanity, but he's still looking to the Maddocks as kind of his Trump whisperer. And that's a bad sign for the GOP.
I love the eyes emoji. Like, not saying it's true or not, just looking at the buses of the Gonzaga Bulldogs men's team. State Senator Mallory McMorrow, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
Hey, everyone. MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.